Welcome back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Yet again, it's Drago Bosnic. We're back. That CIA fly might be around, but Drago is back this time with he's armed and dangerous. Drago, show everybody your newest weapon. Excellent.
Here's the fly swatter finally, and it's crazy. Like the thing is, it's one freaking fly, and I killed like 5 others, and just can't get this one. Anyway, as I mentioned before, like for the most part, it's actually bothering me, not the freaking camera. I have no idea why the camera is so interesting now, but for some reason it is.
It might be emitting some kind of frequency that's like attracting the fly, like a buzzing sound or something. Who knows? In any case, this is a comedy show. Nothing we say here has anything to do with reality. For old-time subscribers, welcome back. Good to see you. For the new guys, hi. I don't know how you ended up here, but you're welcome. And I hope you stay to the end. And if you do, then check out some of the older videos as well. All right, now that that's out of the way, we've got more comedy here. A roundup of news. This might be uploaded post Trump and Putin meet. We'll get to that as well. But it is the 14th of the 8th of 2025 as we record this. Did Turkey really develop a hypersonic missile? Did they?
Yeah, like this is the most ridiculous part. I want to say, first of all, like the Turks have actually made some really important strides in developing various weapon systems. Not so much because they wanted to; they were mostly forced. For instance, the drones. For those who don't know, the Pentagon controls much of the Turkish military, if not most of it, or at least it did before the August coup in 2016. When Erdogan took control over most of the military. So the thing is, the Turks, whenever they were non-compliant with Washington D.C.'s demands, the Washington D.C. or the Pentagon would just, stage a coup. The military would take over, and then they would go back to square one. What happened in 2016? The military failed. So what Erdogan did, he organized a purge of all non-loyal elements, and the result was that Turkey lost a lot of very important officers. So one of the ways to ameliorate that situation was to invest in unmanned systems, and this is where the Turkish unmanned industry really comes from, or at least this is where it became more prominent than you would expect from a country like Turkey. So, and this again helped Turkey.
Also, fun fact. One of the guys who's in charge of the Bayraktar, if not the main guy, is the husband of Erdogan's daughter.
His son-in-law.
Son-in-law. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, that could have also had something.
Yeah, obviously. But the thing is, he wouldn't really get the chance to engage in this if he didn't have the incentive of the military, and the military of course needed weapons, but they lacked the personnel that was because a lot of them were in jail, and a lot of them still are in jail. So the thing is, the Turks have used this opportunity to develop a lot of stuff, a lot of weapon systems, and one of those systems are rockets or missiles, if you want. And interestingly, now they built this so-called Typhoon, which is sort of like a ballistic missile. And what they managed to accomplish is that this ballistic missile can now fly more than Mach 5. So for those who only read Wikipedia, Mach 5 is the only parameter that you need to build a hypersonic missile. But that's not really true. Like in military terms, a hypersonic missile is something that can sustain a Mach 5 and also maneuver. If you can do both while maintaining hypersonic speeds, as I said, then you have a hypersonic missile. But the thing is, this is a very, very challenging high-tech task, and very few countries, like less than half a dozen, can do this. And the Turks have just built a ballistic missile. So they built like a Scud with a facelift, and just slammed the name hypersonic to it, which is ridiculous. So the Typhoon has several iterations. The latest one, the Block 4, is supposedly a hypersonic missile, even though like its maneuverability is lower than the Iskander's. And the thing is, a lot of people, or actually most people, they call the Iskander missiles ballistic, which, you know, they're not really, because they can maneuver up to 30 G. So if you can maneuver under 30 G, then you're not a ballistic missile. You're much more than that. So the Iskander can maintain a speed of up to Mach 9, Mach 10 actually, or more with the latest version. And it can also maneuver. So that's the definition of a hypersonic missile without going into too much details, but that's the most basic definition of it. And the Turks simply don't, you know, they don't have these parameters for this Typhoon missile. But I keep hearing everyone, you know, saying that it's a hypersonic missile. I guess if you really want to believe that, it's up to you.
So it's Turkish marketing, just like the Mirage 2000.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, if the Typhoon is a hypersonic missile, then the German V2 was a near hypersonic missile because it could fly almost up to Mach 5. So, yeah, if this is the definition, if they want to change it, then they're going to have to find a new one for the actual hypersonic missile.
Listen,
missiles.
We found out in 2019 that definitions don't mean anything. And that
pretty much,
like, you can change them retroactively and live on TV. So and also, don't forget, it's unprovoked and full scale. Political West's David et Impera strategy destabilizing China's BRI. Can you translate this to English for us people who didn't study
Political
Roman?
West's divide and conquer strategy of destabilizing China's Belt and Road Initiative. So essentially, yeah. So divide et impera is just Latin, you know, just me being a smartass. No, seriously. It's pretty interesting, you know, if you look at the map of the countries that got destabilized in the last several years at this point. It's, you know, it's impossible not to see the pattern, you know, and it's all those countries are, you know, the perfect match with the Chinese BRI. So we have the destabilization of the Middle East, especially the area around Palestine, Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and then we had South Asia, India, Pakistan, and then we had this thing between Taiwan and Thailand and Cambodia, right? So like this war came out of nowhere, and it came just about, you know, several months after both countries started implementing China's BRI projects, you know, and both countries are part of the Chinese BRI, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. So it's interesting how all of this, you know, I mean, we could say it's just a coincidence, right? I mean, there's no other explanation, right? I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. It must be a coincidence, right?
You have no idea what you're talking about. This is obviously nothing to do with the heartland and the rimland. What happened here?
Yeah. Well, I forgot Iran. I mean, I'm looking at the map and I completely forgot Iran, which is also a major, you know, part of the BRI and a country that China wanted to invest $400 billion in. So, yeah, again, must be a coincidence.
And nothing that we've talked about, obviously, like never mentioned here before.
Yeah.
Totally, like news to us. We don't know why this is happening. George is shocked. Shocking how shocked people are.
He certainly didn't expect it. Like
nobody saw this coming. No, but nobody saw this coming. Why are American nuclear weapons in UK once again? Because the UK wants to get what's the name? Poseidon wants to get Poseidon. The UK really wants to get Poseidon. Can we skip this article? Why
Yeah, pretty much. It's just B-61, 12, and 13 in the UK, and they serve to hit St. Petersburg. That's pretty much it.
They're going to hit St. Petersburg?
Yeah, they said it with this. They need around 100 of these to obliterate St. Petersburg. And these are air-launched, so they need 100 F-35s to fly there. Well, good luck with that. All the Russians have to do is just... Where are they going to get 135s? The thing is, all the Russians have to do is just, release some pigeons, and that's it. They have air defenses.
Or just like trigger some volcano somewhere, so that the like planes can't fly anyway. U.S. helping neo-Nazi junta push for escalation by attacking Belarus. This was that drone incident.
Yeah, the drone incident, and there weren't, there were some drone incidents against Russian military facilities and against border posts of the Belarusian border guards, but we didn't really have these incidents where they would attack civilian or residential areas in the capital city of Belarus. So this was like a new, like setting the new bar for escalation. And then Belarus said, well, we got Oreshniks now, we got 150 to 200 nuclear weapons, so maybe it's better just to leave us alone, And it seems it worked because it hasn't happened since then.
This was sent in by Maya. Rock bottom. If you hit rock bottom, make sure not to hurt yourself. All right. I have to pretend this is a comedy show. I mean, pretend that I'm pretending that this is a comedy show. Nothing we say here has anything to do with reality. Did I say that this time? I think I said it again. I can't remember. Yeah. In any case, this stuff is so unreal, it's real. Just like Musk's car in space. Russia responds with hypersonics to Trump's 10 days threat. Theatrics. What happened?
Well, you remember that Trump he gave Russia 50 days to make a peace deal with Ukraine, and of course the Russians laughed it off, and then Trump shortened it to just 10 to 12 days on July 28th, and the Russians then decided to laugh it off with a bit of Iskanders and Kinjals, And they obliterated a lot of stuff that was sent by NATO in Ukraine. Obviously, as I said, this is one of the dozens of strikes with these hypersonic weapons. It's been more than 10 days since July 28, and I don't see anything happening. So I guess it worked.
The Russians recently upgraded some plane to carry Kinjal. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, they said that the Su-34 can carry the Kinjal. Although, to be honest, I think it could be a ruse because the Su-34 is not fast enough to give the Kinjal enough acceleration, for it to use its full potential. So the best jet for Russia to use this missile with is the MiG-31. And the thing is, the MiG-31... the primary version that uses the Kinjal is the MiG-31K. However, there's another version, which is the MiG-31I. Some say the I stands for Ishim, and that this thing is actually an anti-satellite, let's say, missile carrier, because it can carry an anti-satellite missile. The point is, because it can carry these very, very heavy missiles, they realize it can also carry the Kinjal. So they modified it, and now the Russians have essentially doubled or tripled the number of MiG-31s that can carry the Kinjal, because these are no small modifications. You have the basic MiG-31 BM, which is most of these MiG-31s in the VKS service. The VKS being the Russian Aerospace Forces. So what they have to do is they have to remove the radar and other stuff, to put in other assets and subsystems that are necessary to make the Kinjal work. So they needed something, some interim solution, before they can get more of these MiG-31s to be able to launch the Kinzhals. So if the Su-34 can launch the Kinzhals officially, then the Ukrainians and of course NATO will have a problem telling when the Kinzhal is going to come. You see, every single time when a MiG-31 flies, takes off, the NATO calls the Ukrainians and tells them, okay, you have a Kinzhal coming very soon. So they hunker down, they remove or they mask most of their equipment in hopes of avoiding the Kinzhal. So they, it gives them some warning time. But if you say, oh, the Su-34 can do this as well, and there are like 250 of them in the Russian military, then it's going to be far more difficult to give them a warning, because the Su-34 can carry a bunch of other stuff, cruise missiles, bombs, whatever you want, whichever weapon you can imagine. So if you put a Kinzhal to that list, then it complicates the warning time. So I think that's the reason why they said it carries the Kinzhal. Not necessarily, it doesn't need to, because the MiG-31 is just far better suited for that.
Sounds like they're doing
Russian
the
propaganda.
Iranian. No, the Russians are learning from the Iranians and doing that Iranian hacking of the Israeli warning system, where like the Israelis were getting warnings and there was like no missiles coming. They spent like the whole day in the bunker. So like the Ukrainians are going to be like running around every time a Russian airplane takes off. And
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Sounds likely. I'm going to take a little break to remind everybody that this channel is not eligible for monetization, and that you can always find a link in the description to support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. All right, now that is done for this recording as well, we're back to Trump and more. Trump targets BRICS, economic warfare. I don't know what to tell you about like this whole tariffs thing. It's just funny how he thinks it's gonna work.
Yeah.
But like it's just like the child at the cafeteria who's like, no, I will not give you my candy unless you give me your cake. And everybody else has candy and cake, and they're like sharing it with each other. And he's like, no.
It really is ridiculous, because he thinks that you can lead an actual functioning foreign policy by attacking like 80% of, 60% of the global population at this point, and like 80% of the actual GDP, not like the nominal bullshit that that they like to quote, when to make themselves feel better. So he imposed sanctions on India for reselling Russian oil. Like, what the hell? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, the oil has to go somewhere, and the United States cannot produce enough of it for the entire world, or even entire Europe. So, like, it has to come from somewhere. India didn't suddenly find oil anywhere. It's obvious that it's a Russian oil. They were like, producing 2% of oil, or exporting 2% of global oil. Now they're like exporting, 5 or 10%. It's obvious it's all coming from Russia. So the interesting thing is, what did he expect is going to happen? And in one of the later articles that we're going to discuss, I'm going to talk about India's response and how Trump was shocked. And the interesting thing is, I also mentioned here, they're imposing tariffs on Brazil because they don't like the judges in Brazil. For some reason, the judge in Brazil, I forgot his name, he's being targeted because he's the one who is presiding over Bolsonaro's case. So it's just a way like to increase pressure on this guy, Demarias or something. I think that could be his name, but I could be wrong. And like, what's the deal? Like, why are you getting involved in the internal affairs of another country, especially a country like Brazil? Brazil is not, Iraq or like some small country, even Serbia. I mean, we could easily say Brazil is not Serbia. Like it's not a small country that you can just bully, the way you see fit. It's the largest country in Latin America, the most powerful country in Latin America. So and like he's essentially sanctioning India and Brazil simultaneously while also conducting economic warfare against Russia and China. So the thing is, these four countries don't have to do anything. They just have to let Trump, lead his foreign policy, and BRICS get stronger. That's all they have to do.
He just has to. They just need to leave him in the corner and cry it out. It's like that phase in childhood where, like, supposedly you have to like let your children cry it out. This scene is the one I'm looking for. India officially rejects crash-prone F-35 as Su-57 gains ability to launch a Zircon. This is the response you were talking about.
Yeah, this is the response, and it came just at around the same time when this second F-35B, it didn't crash, but it was forced to land, which it's not the same, but it's almost the same given the problems the F-35 has. So after the Trump imposed these tariffs, the Indians just said, okay, fuck it. We were trying to be polite and not tell you to fuck off with your stupid jet that can't fly and, can't even, survive in storms or birds or whatever. So we're not going to buy it. That's it. At the same time, the Su-57 was confirmed by several sources that it has air-launched, air-to-ground hypersonic missiles. So it already has hypersonic missiles, which are air-to-air, which serve to destroy other aircraft. But we didn't know that it has the air-launched, air-to-ground hypersonic missiles. So I've done a lot of research on this. I didn't really find conclusive evidence that it's the Zircon, but it makes more sense than the story that it's able to launch the Kinjal, because first of all, the Kinjal is too heavy for the Su-57. It also cannot fit in the internal weapons base, so the Su-57 would lose its stealth capabilities if it was carrying the Kinjal, and it could also carry just one. And on the other hand, if there is a miniaturized, more compact Zircon, then it could carry up to two. So that's a lot of difference, for an aircraft. So in that regard, we could say that it's a good way to promote the jet for India, because India needs missiles like these. And I in the previous episode I mentioned the Su-30 MKI, the Indian flanker variant, and the BrahMos missile. Well, the BrahMos and the Zircon actually share heritage, because both are actually coming from the P-800 Onyx. So this would be a very good offer for India, because they would gain not just a stealth aircraft, they would also gain an aircraft that can launch similar missiles as the Su-30 MKI. They might even integrate their own BrahMos with the Su-57. So again, India has a million reasons to buy the Su-57 and zero reasons to buy the F-35. So we'll see what happens in the future, but I think it's very clear what they're going to do.
I don't know if you guys noticed that the coffee thing came up, and then I had a coffee that was like subliminal. You were supposed to get it and go like click on the link and buy my coffee. India said, "I don't think so," to the Americans. Russia ends unilateral INF treaty compliance amid escalating NATO aggression. They ended the compliance, but as Joaquin pointed out in one of his recent lives, it's not like they did it unilaterally. It's like the U.S. kind of didn't sign it and didn't like stick to it, and then the Russians were like, hey, but you're not sticking to it, so like we're officially not going to decide not to stick to it, right?
Yeah, well, the word unilateral in this case is actually positive, because positive for the Russians, because they were the ones, they didn't unilaterally withdraw from this, they unilaterally complied with the INF treaty that the US withdrew from on August 2nd, 2019. So that was like 6 years ago. Despite that, Russia said we're going to continue to comply with the INF treaty as long as you don't, bring INF banned missiles to Europe. Well, newsflash, we knew what the U.S. is going to do. So now the Russians have said, okay, fuck it. We're sick and tired of you doing this. So now we're going to cancel our unilateral compliance. So that means, like, I didn't have to do this. I still decided to do it. And despite that, you went for the, you went for just, annoying me and doing something to undermine my interests. And I mean, these are not just any interests. These are basic national security interests. So now Russia has ended this, which means Russia has no legal limitations on the number of medium and intermediate range missiles that it can produce. So for those who don't know, intermediate and medium range missiles are all missiles between 500 and 5,500 kilometers in range. So, that includes the new Iskander 1000. It includes the so-called 9M729, which is like a land-based caliber, pretty much, although like much longer range, around 2,500 kilometers in range, even more than that. But we're not going to get into that. And it also includes the Oreshnik.
You're like exciting me with the possibilities of liberating Kosovo.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, let's not forget about the Oreshnik. The Oreshnik is the most important one on the entire list.
Listen, if you're watching this, and this is going to be uploaded post Putin and Trump meeting, so hopefully you watching this means that we didn't get anything happen to Putin, and we didn't see any Oreshnik, because as was pointed out in chat, while Trump is there and Putin is there, Lavrov is going to be there, Medvedev is the one who's going to be chilling in Russia waiting with his button on the finger, So you think there's going to be territorial exchanges? Do you think they're going to make Alaska Russia again?
Yeah, maybe they can do that. But like, it's ridiculous because you know how the West functions. If they are willing to negotiate, that means they're losing. If they're going for a military solution, that means that they're winning. So, and the fact that they are insisting on peace negotiations so much, it tells you all you need to know.
The other thing that popped up recently in the news was that Zelensky and the Europeans had a phone call with Trump. And previously to this, Zelensky publicly came out, or one of his people, and said they're going to open up a third war. They're going to start a third war if they're not invited to the talks. What? It's like comment, Drago, please.
Well, I mean, what they could do is, like, they could attack Moldova, or actually in this case, to push Moldova into a war and try to conquer Transnistria. So, like, every single time when they're losing, they need to do something drastic that's going to shift attention away from the actual battlefield. It's interesting how that works. I mean, why would you do that? Like, from a military standpoint, it doesn't make sense at all. But you're going to do it because you're afraid, because this entire deal in Ukraine is a PR war. It's about PR. This is why they moved into Kursk. We knew from the get-go. If you look at the map, it doesn't take a military expert to understand this. If you look at the map and you see guys are moving into an area where they're surrounded on three sides, it's pretty clear they're going to all die. And we've been saying that they're all going to die for since the moment it happened. And despite the fact that they were excited because they managed to take a few villages, they all died. Or most of them got killed, or they got maimed for life for no fucking reason. And if you look at the entire Kursk adventure, was it worth it? Well, I mean, yeah. If you think losing 70,000 guys for a bit of PR is worth it, then yeah. Certainly it was.
You know why it was worth it? It was worth it to prove to the British that their whole army could do nothing against Russia. That's what it was worth for.
Pretty much.
Because like 70,000 is more than the British have on command.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of retaliation and possibilities with medium-range ballistic missiles, want to tell us about what's new with the 9M723S hypersonic missile for the Iskander system that you mentioned earlier?
So, whenever we say Iskander, it's a misnomer a bit, because Iskander is just the name of the system, and the system has a bunch of these, subsystems or missiles that it can use. So you have the Iskander M, which is a regular quasi-ballistic or hypersonic missile, if you want. Or you have the Iskander K, which launches cruise missiles, which is an entirely different class of missiles. So, the actual missile of the Iskander M system is called 9M723. So this is the hypersonic missile that it uses. This missile comes in variants. It has the 9M723.
Wait. You just reminded me. I mentioned this in another talk, but you were on holiday. You showed me that chat with DeepSeek. I posted the meme the other day. Viewers will have seen it. But DeepSeek making jokes about Iskander missiles and like NATO quivering. Do you want to tell people about like your experience with what happened when you asked it about Iskander missiles while you're talking about this Iskander missile?
Yeah, I was shocked because I knew about this missile for over 2 years, because this missile 9M723S is actually the Iskander 1000. So at the time, we used this colloquial name because we didn't know the actual name of it. And I knew the name for around a year, but I was told not to reveal it, And then I suddenly decided, okay, let's see how these, glorified search engines work. And, these AI chatbots are essentially glorified search engines. At least that's what I thought. I tried, Grok, I tried ChatGPT and so on and so on. It was okay-ish, it was interesting to a certain degree, but then it got boring because it was all like, regurgitating Wikipedia pretty much. But then I tried the DeepSeek, and it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was funny, because it was far more engaging and so on. It was far less just Western propaganda. There was also some Chinese propaganda, obviously, but it's still, more diversity. And then it mentioned the 9M723S. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how the fuck does this thing know about this, about something that we're not allowed to talk about? And I didn't see the 9M723S anywhere in the media for over a year. And I have no idea where this thing got the information from. And then when I asked it, it said there was a Chinese military forum that we can't access because of, the Chinese Great Firewall. And that's where it got the information from, meaning that the Chinese are very aware, far more aware of Russia's, missile capabilities than anyone in the West is. The interesting thing is this thing, the 9M723S, is essentially like a ground-based Kinjal, because the Kinjal is a vastly improved, let's say, subversion of the Iskander. Some people say it's just an air-launched Iskander. It's not really, there are some very important differences between them. But it seems that the Russians have taken parts of the upgrades for the Kinjal and, applied them back on the Iskander or on the 9M723.
Let me put this to you in car terms. It's like a BMW 3 Series with elements of a BMW 5 Series, and then they took like something that they made in the 7 Series and they put the engine back in the 3 Series so that it could fit in the same like highway or something.
Let's say
right?
let's say that's a good analogy, but the thing is, this thing is almost as fast as the Kinjal, and it has a similar range, like over 1,000 kilometers. And I mean, it's scary. It's no longer just an operational tactical system, as it's called in the Russian military. Now it has a strategic impact, and obviously all the Iskanders can carry nuclear weapons. So again, if you're in London, you should ask your government.
Bond steal. You should leave. You should leave bond steal.
And leave bond steal. That would be great for us. But if you're living in London, I wouldn't advise you to go anywhere near the Buckingham Palace, because somebody in the Downing Street might get some bright ideas and attack Kaliningrad, and then you have about 10 minutes before there's retaliation.
I don't think it's even 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, for the Russians to prepare.
You're giving them false hope, man. You're giving these British people false hope. You have 10 minutes. They don't have 10 minutes. They have 3. Maybe they have 3. Maybe.
If they're lucky. But it's interesting because this thing we know it was used for over a year. And we know this because, as I said, there are several versions of this missile. And it was there's also the 9 M723-5K, which is a cluster warhead, and it's used in most of these attacks on the training centers. But this thing is different. This thing is far more destructive, and if you really want to fight the Russians, be my guest and see how this thing works.
Yeah, I hope we don't have to find out, but the way things are going, I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. Let's put it that way. And as I was saying, it's time for the BRICS to start a parallel UN, because the UN is just doing this. Yeah, the UN. What can I say? I think that meme covers it.
It's just like what the League of Nations was prior to World War II. It served nothing.
Stop noticing. Stop noticing.
Yeah, it did nothing. But the thing is, the UN took the flag of the League of Nations. Like, didn't you get the hint? The useless organization. You essentially just renamed it. It's as useless as it was back then. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
U.S. trade war on China traps Pentagon in REE paradox. What's a REE paradox?
It refers to rare earth elements. So this is what you mentioned in the previous episode. So you see, REEs, rare earth elements, are very important for a bunch of stuff. Especially technologies. If you're holding a smartphone in your hands, it's thanks to REEs that you can have that. Otherwise, it would be an impossible technology for the vast majority of us. Thanks to that, we have it. And also a lot of advanced weapon systems are very, very dependent on REEs. And guess what? China controls around 86% of the market, of the entire REE market. So that means China is exporting these things. It's also building various high-tech stuff using the REEs, and it's exporting those as well. So, China has dominance in this, not because China wanted to have dominance. It's just, the way it is. They have most of the mines that, and also the mining process is very, very complicated. Very few countries can do that, and very few countries find it, the return on investment is not very good because, as I said, it really is complicated. So the Pentagon now is in a problem because China is starting to hit back and retaliate because of all the things the United States is doing to China, and now the Pentagon is whining about the fact that they don't have enough REEs for their advanced jets. And this is the thing you mentioned, why America has issues to develop the 6th generation aircraft. It's true. Partially, that is part of the reason, but another part of the reasons, of course, is corruption and lies and all the other stuff. But of course, that's another story.
There's no corruption in the West. Stop talking like this is the
there's lobbying. I forgot. There's no corruption.
There you go. YouTube language. U.S. NATO still unalived. Set on igniting another bloodbath. Imagine I did that every time I wanted to say dead. I used YouTube language. Those YouTube people who you say unalived. I don't understand that. Anyway, U.S. NATO still dead set on igniting another bloodbath, this time in Taiwan. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know you would be shocked the most because you didn't expect it. You don't know anything about the region or any of these topics, right? So jokes aside, again, this is interesting. You see, the U.S. is exporting billions of dollars worth of weapons to Taiwan. At the same time, they are trying to pressure China into isolating Russia, and also they want to destroy China's, let's say, peaceful projects like the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. And also they want to make sure that China doesn't have dominance in these REEs that we talked about, and that the US has them, even though the US doesn't have the mines, and other industries to support that. So it's very interesting how that works. And at the same time, as I said, they're arming Taiwan. And one of the things that they're doing is they're arming Taiwan with specific missiles that were previously banned, the ones that we talked about when we talked about the INF treaty and its final end. So, like, if they give Taiwan these missiles with 1,000-kilometer range, it's going to put 80% of the most important Chinese cities in range of these missiles. So, like, who's the aggressor here, right? Are Chinese missiles, jeopardizing not continental U.S., let's say Hawaii, or any of the territories that the U.S. controls in Central and Southern Pacific? So
their ICBMs are.
Yeah, their ICBMs are, obviously, but the thing is, the game is, you want to upend your opponent with these, more tactical and operational missiles, and this is what they're trying to do, and to force China to only dominate with only ICBMs, right? So it's interesting, it's interesting how that works, and obviously it's a way to put more pressure on China and to force China to do whatever the hell the U.S. wants. Even though the U.S. changes.
I think China's screwed. I think China's alone. I think China cannot possibly ever develop such technology to have such missiles, and I think that the Chinese, even if they don't develop it, they surely can't get it from their friends like the Iranians or the Russians, who we just discussed don't have missiles and are useless. At the end of your article here, it goes on to say Beijing needs to prepare for this eventuality, particularly as American supposedly civilian companies are increasingly integrating advanced ISR and communications assets with the Pentagon. This is especially true for corporations such as Elon Musk's SpaceX and the infamous Starlink. I was looking for a reason to pop Musk bingo into today's talk. So here's some Musk bingo. I saw this on a video discussing him and going to space and whatnot. And everybody remember when he told us, I don't know how many years ago, that we're going to go to Mars and you could sign up for his trip? Did you sign up? I actually know people who tried to sign up. It's hilarious.
It's so interesting. He presents himself as this peacemaker. He prevented Pearl Harbor in Crimea 2 years ago. That was the story in the mainstream media, and so on.
What? Pearl Harbor in Crimea?
Yeah. There was a story that he turned off the Starlink so the Ukrainians cannot target Russian ships, and he prevented the Russian Pearl Harbor. So that was that was a story in the mainstream media. But the thing is, this guy is a Pentagon contractor. Many of his companies are actually connected with the U.S. military, and the U.S. military is using these technologies to, of course, advance its interests and improve its capabilities. So again, if you think Elon Musk is the anti-establishment guy, continue drinking the Kool-Aid. It really is great.
And don't forget to use toothpaste with fluoride. I just want to throw that out there. In any case, Mirkan from chat, somebody new in chat, sent this along. World ID, your retina, they want to make it your passport. In case people forgot, there's a very old video of a guy on YouTube taking a picture of Merkel that was like publicly available, and she was speaking at an event, and from the photograph that was publicly available, he managed to like fake her retina scan and hack a retina scanner. So much for retina scan ID security. Drago, how do you feel about this whole new global world and AI being everywhere?
Oh, it's great. I can't wait for Neuralinks and chips and for barcode tattoos and all this other goodies. They're gonna make us, turn us into cyberpunk on steroids.
I was just gonna say cyberpunk 2070, whatever it was. South Korea, the most cyberpunky of all of them. Nuclear program underscores Western hypocrisy. What? They have a nuclear program?
Yeah, they actually had a nuclear program in the 70s and 80s, and they nearly built nuclear weapons. But turns out that you know how they keep saying that North Korea is a threat to the world because of nuclear weapons? Well, try South Korea, because you see, last year the former president Yoon, he actually launched, and I think we talked about this. He actually launched drones on Pyongyang in hopes of causing a North Korean attack that would give him an excuse to proclaim martial law, so he could stay in power for longer. So it's interesting, this, when you have a country like that, it means it's not very politically stable. And if you look at North Korea's history of its governments and political instability.
We discussed this. Yeah, they're all like committed suicide or were couped or were executed or were put in jail or etc.
Well,
like every single one of them.
The Minister of Defense he tried to commit suicide after he was jailed for sending the drones on Pyongyang to cause the fucking war that would then be used as an excuse for the martial law. So you see, South Korea just talked about increasing the number or increasing the participation of its nuclear corporations in the country's energy production, which means they're also going to have more enriched uranium, which means they can also acquire nuclear weapons, right? And you see, why we talk about hypocrisy in this case? Well, look at Iran. Iran supposedly got bombed because it has a nuclear program, but when South Korea does the same, nobody bats an eye. Nobody even talks about it. And, some of my colleagues actually, they wanted to write about this, but they didn't know enough about the weapon system. So they asked me to write about it. So I did. And it's interesting, I didn't see anyone write about this, anyone. And you see it that this hypocrisy and these double standards are completely normalized. If it's Iran or North Korea or Russia or any other country, it's destabilizing to the world. But if it's any Western aligned country, then it's just nuclear energy, clean energy. It's about decarbonizing the planet.
I'm just gonna call them the Pepsi Korea from now on. Everybody knows about that time that Pepsi had a army of their own when they bought it from the collapsing Soviet Union. Neo-Nazi junta forces and foreign mercenaries hypersonic rendezvous with quote-unquote Iskanders. This is what I was alluding to right at the beginning of maybe even the first recording. Yeah. But why don't you tell people what happened while I get the last meme ready?
Yeah, well, the thing is, the foreign mercenaries and NATO personnel, they were on these training centers. They were preparing at least 5,000 soldiers to eliminate the Russian advances in recent days, which is 25 to 30 kilometers almost per day at around the Pokrovsk area in the DNR. So the thing is, the Russians found out about this, so they sent a few Iskanders, just in case they didn't get the memo. I mean, NATO personnel and the foreign mercenaries. And some military sources are telling me that one strike killed 115 soldiers. So that's one missile that obliterated 115 special forces, highly trained people, that also had, decades-long experience in warfare. You see, this is the thing about hypersonic missiles or any other, advanced weapon system.
Your training doesn't matter.
Yeah, your training doesn't matter because you don't get to see the enemy. Like for all of those Call of Duty, Battlefield, whatever, FPS guys who think the war is about your guns, I mean your small arms. Well, newsflash: the vast majority of casualties in all wars were artillery, aviation, in recent years, obviously drones, and long-range strike systems such as the Iskanders. And of course, in the Russian military doctrine, these hypersonic missiles are essentially used not just for pinpoint strikes, but they're used as highly extended artillery. So, good luck with that. If you think it's a good idea to, have 100 of your buddies in one place training to kill the Russians, well, guess what? You're going to get this hypersonic rendezvous and you're not going to like it. Although you're not going to feel anything, to be honest.
As we draw this talk to a close, I'm going to play some music in the background. That is the outro. We're done with our neo-Nazi juntas, and we've got one of these new memes that was circulating today. You probably missed it, but these are liberal boobs and Nazi boobs. This was shared in chat. It's a jeans commercial. She was talking about her jeans. And I found that it was crazy that the commercial that she was harking back to, or imitating the original of, the girl in the original ad from a long time ago was 14 at the time of filming. So there's that fun fact. Also, I spoiled this meme for you, but I don't know who this woman is, and she's not even that Nazi-like.
Oh, you mean Sydney Sweeney?
Yeah, I'm sure. If is that who it is? If it is, then yeah.
Yeah, she's like a newer generation actress. I mean, she looks nice. I mean, if you are not a gay guy or something, she looks very nice, and she's definitely a hot woman. But for some reason, they had a problem because she's blonde. I mean, can you imagine somebody saying it's a problem if she were black or something? So I mean, the liberals are just fucking nuts, and that's it.
Yes, the liberals are nuts, and she's maybe a 7 for Belgrade.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true, definitely.
Like you'd give her a glance, but you wouldn't give her 2 on any street in Belgrade. In any case, Drago, anything you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I mean, don't get the blue jeans. Just get your liberal pants or whatever the fuck that you wear if you don't like them.
Yoga pants. They come in all sizes.
I'm not sure if they look good on liberals. They look good on normal people, but not liberals.
That's why the liberals wear them. In any case, like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. Leave a comment if you feel like it. Also, links to all of Drago's work, as usual, are in the descriptions, as are the links to all the ways that you can support me. Drago, thank you for your patience. Good to have you back. We'll do this again soon. See you around. Peace.
See you soon.